Hello everybody, welcome to the Powertools vlog. I'm here today with Pastor Furman Fordham, known by many of you as Puck, and he's the pastor of the Riverside Church in Nashville. I'm so glad to have you with us today. And
Good to be here, man.
Yeah,
Good to be here.
Thanks, man. Thanks for taking
Looking
out the
forward to
time. Likewise. Today we're discussing what to do when you first get to your first church or your first district in light of leadership. Pastor, how many churches have you pastored? What has your experience been like in terms of going to districts?
That question, how many churches, you gotta think, are you talking about number of churches or number of districts? In my very first district, I had 3 churches. It's interesting to me. I lived in a place called Coffeyville, Kansas, in the Central States Conference, and one of my churches was 143 miles away one way. You know? Then I think I might have the distinction of being the only pastor in Central States that pastored both of their 3 church districts. We only have 2 3-church districts. I don't know what they have now. So I pastored 3 churches in that first district.
Wow.
3 in the next district. Then I pastored the Allen Chapel Church in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then Riverside Chapel here in Nashville. So I guess technically that's 3, 6, 7, 8.
Wow.
But only 1, 2, 3, 4 locations per se.
Gotcha.
Also served while I was at Andrews as an intern at Stratford Memorial with Charlie Joe, which was an associate kind of experience. And then prior to that, I served in Australia as a student missionary, as a youth pastor.
Okay.
So if you add both of those, then I feel like I'm at 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Wow.
But have been blessed to have a little experience with what we would consider in Adventism, to be the smaller and to be the moderately larger.
Gotcha. So you know what it's like to receive a phone call from a president or to receive a phone call from an administrator and say, hey, we'd love to assign you to a new area, to pick up and to move, and then to enter a community of faith where people may know more about you than you know about them. To enter a community of faith where they may have high expectations, they may have no expectations, and that's an interesting transition for a pastor and for their family as well, to just enter into this space and to be expected to lead. And there are many things that can go right. There are many things that can go wrong.
That's true.
So from your experience with 10 different churches, several different communities, or several different locations, what are some of the things that a new pastor should definitely try to do going in?
Yeah. I'm going to try to speak generally, because everyone's context is different. I remember my very first assignment after seminary. Pastored one of those districts prior to seminary, but after seminary, I'm thinking, man, I need to get focus groups, and I need to have a strategic planning team, and I need to spend all this time. And finally, one of my elders said, Pastor, just tell us what to do. We'll follow you, That worked well in Charleston, Missouri, when I had 50, 60 people, and they were just happy to have a leader. Well, if I would have taken that advice when I moved to Nashville and just said, I'm the leader, follow me, I probably would have lasted a month and a half. So we got different contexts, but I think there's some principles that are transferable. One thing that I think is so important to grasp is we are not leaders, in my opinion. We are spiritual leaders. And I want to emphasize, we are not just spiritual. We are leaders. It's both of those things. I think that there are some tactics that individuals may use in the corporate world that are not Christocentric. No, we are spiritual. But there also are some leadership principles that, Jesus talked about, man, the children of this world are more shrewd than, man, whatever your hand finds to do, do with all your might. It is a shame, I know I'm about just going off on a tangent now, but it is a shame, I think, when we are pastoring, especially very educated young adults who know where things are going corporately, even some of our baby boomers who you know, they manage, you know,
Right.
portfolios of X million dollars, and then they come to a board meeting and you don't have an agenda.
Right.
Or you don't even have a finance
It's
committee.
frustrating.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
much so.
Mhm.
We are spiritual
Mhm.
leaders, you know. So I really believe when somebody first gets that assignment, that you need to be asking yourself on your knees, God, why me? Why here?
Mm.
Why now?
Right.
There is something that God has put inside of each person that He has called. We just received a wonderful message from Dr. Lee on Jeremiah chapter 1. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. God knows why He is sending Pastor X. And there's something inside of you that He wants to be given to that congregation. I think we should spend some prayerful time, not in a cookie cutter fashion, like I have this notebook
Right.
and I always do this program. I'm not talking about that. But I do believe there is a contribution. There is something that only Edsel can provide, and we should know what that is. But then, why me? Why here? I need to have some system for assessing this particular group, this particular congregation, this particular community, to figure out how to match what I have. But then, why now? Where are they in the life cycle of their church? What do they, gauging rate and speed and pace, all that kind of stuff. I would begin by as you spend time in prayer, just copiously taking notes regarding anything that God may be saying to you. And this is before you even step foot at the place.
Right, yeah.
Trying to, God, what are you trying to communicate to me? The next thing I would be saying, I remember names leave me sometime, but the preacher at the seminary, who all of my colleagues we went through, I can't remember, but he's always saying, so then therefore, people would know I'm talking about, I can't remember his name. Doc, anyway, he would always say, man, if the prophets could give their messages repeatedly, don't be ashamed to preach that word repeatedly.
Mercy.
I think sometimes when we go to a new congregation, we are thinking automatically we need to have some fresh fire.
Right.
You don't know the people yet. I think, man, if God has given you some solid Christocentric sermons in the past, dust them things off, so that preferably, man, if you have what Eddie Polite calls your stash, if you have your stash of sermons that can, if you're starting out, maybe it can get you through the first month.
Right.
You've been preaching for a little while, I can get you to the first quarter. So that you got your preaching calendar already taken care of.
Yeah.
And you can do some of these other things that I'm talking about behind the scenes.
Okay.
I'm not suggesting that when you first get to this district, you are spending 20 hours a week in your study. No, let's take some of them sermons that I've already put the 20 hours in, Christocentric sermons, and let's have them out there so I can be doing some other behind the scenes thing. First thing when you get there, I would be suggesting, man, make sure that first sermon is Christ-centered, short, and sweet. And I would communicate, if you are in a smaller church, I communicate with the clerk. If you're in a larger church, I communicate with the church secretary. And put out in the bulletin some specific office hours when you would like to meet with every family of the church individually. So, for example, if you were headed to X district and you were able to say, on Tuesdays, I have a slot from 9 to 10, another slot from 10 to 11, another slot from 11 to 12, tell you the truth, do it through lunch, because a lot of people will be able to come during lunch.
Okay.
Take your break around 2 to 4.
Right.
Do some more slots from 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. And you are asking that clerk or secretary to sign members up that will come to the church. All of this is relative. If you're in a city like Nashville, you don't need to be driving north 30 miles to Hendersonville and south 30 miles to Franklin. have them all come to the church, and you are simply asking things like, one, introduce me to you, tell me about your family, tell me what you do, tell me how you became a Seventh-day Adventist Christian.
Nice.
You know, talk to me about what you think our church does well. You're actually starting to learn some things. Our strengths. Talk to me about some things you think we can do better. Our weaknesses. Talk to me about some opportunities, things that you think, man, if we would try to start X, Y, Z.
Right.
Opportunities. Talk to me about some things that you're really concerned about, some threats. You're doing a personal little SWOT analysis.
Nice.
Also ask those family members, what can I be praying for as your pastor? Ask them, what one thing, if I could do one thing for you as your pastor, what do you expect from me? I wouldn't ask them for 7 things.
Right.
All of us know everybody has different expectations.
Needs, yeah.
But you do want to communicate, I want to serve you, I want to hear from you. You might hear stuff like, we want you to care about our children. Now, I'll give one thing. We want to make sure you're praying for us. You give them 10 things, they're going to start talking about, we want to make sure you change X, Y. No. Then take it as an opportunity to let them know one thing that you want from them. If I received one, I probably could, and begin setting the template that you want them to begin praying that we would receive God's vision for us for now at this point in time. Let them know, I believe there's a reason why God has sent me. I'm going back to this, why me? Why here? Why now? I believe there's a reason why God has sent me. I believe there's a reason why he has us here at this particular time. I'm asking that you would join me in praying for God to reveal his vision. You know, everybody else has, okay, we want to do this, we want to do that. No, your spiritual leadership. Notice what we've done. We've done a SWOT analysis, business.
Right.
Spiritual, man, I want you praying. If you meet with 30 families, I'm talking about you are doing this 4 days a week for the first 3 to 6 months. You're just meeting with people.
Right.
Now, you're already preaching over here. Even when you start getting to prayer meeting, man, I would be casting the vision that we want to be praying for God's vision. I think something that I bumped into, and man, if I'm just running,
No, go ahead. No, you're good.
Something that I bumped into at one of my churches is, I think there are 2 types of people. I think that you have some that are sitting back like, okay, what's this new pastor?
Let's see. Let's
see
what he got.
What's he gonna do? Yeah, and they are sitting back, honestly, just kind of critiquing, watching. They're not engaging and participating.
Yes.
Okay. Then you have this opposite person who's like, okay, what's your vision? Come on, tell me what you're going to do. What both of those individuals have in common is they are looking for you to do. Some, the first one will say, oh, he ain't doing nothing. You know, he ain't. The other one is like, okay, he's doing stuff, but he's doing stuff. They're not talking about what we.
Right.
I think the way that you can quiet and balance and satisfy both is, oh, there's something that I'm doing, but it's something that we need to do together. What we are doing for the first 3 to 6 months, we're praying for a vision from the Holy Spirit. That is our strategic plan.
Right.
Put it in business language. Our strategic plan is we are praying for vision from the Holy Spirit. So I would be using the first month or so in prayer meeting to be preaching and teaching on praying for the vision and direction of the Holy Spirit. And I'm not just saying it because I want to sound spiritual. I'm doing that. I am asking for the Holy Spirit to lead us. Then, man, I'm going to ask for a meeting with my elders, first elders meeting. This is maybe going to be, you know, the middle of month 1. Some of these things are going on simultaneously. First 3 to 6 months, meeting with people individually.
Right.
Prayer meeting. I'm dealing with praying for guidance, vision, so-and-so. With these preaching from that stash, Christ-centered sermons, righteousness by faith, you know. with these elders, I want to begin the first conversation getting to know them. Let's model listening. Too frequently, pastors come in, all right, I'm the one that just graduated from the seminary, I got the MDiv, No. I'm here to listen to you. I want to go through each elder just like I did with those people individually.
Gotcha.
But an additional component I want to talk to them about is I want to ask each elder, talk to me about your specific ministry burden. Talk to me about your perception of your gifts in ministry. What aspects of spiritual leadership do you gravitate toward most? If they're not tracking where I'm going, if they're not following me, guide them a little bit. Do you see yourself more as a teaching elder, a pastoral care elder? Do you like administration? You like preaching, I'll probably say, yeah. I want to start learning where their strengths are so that maybe I can start trying to guide them in that direction.
Makes sense.
But I want to hear from them.
Are these group meetings or individual meetings?
Group meetings. I'm glad you asked. Okay. All the elders. It's the first elders meeting. Man, I want to get to know you. Man, hey.
Okay.
What's your name? So and so. Where are you from, man? Right. Hey, tell me a little bit about how you became a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. Talk to me about what excites you as an elder. Where do you want to make a difference? To each person. At the end, I'm going to ask them, do you mind if at our next meeting I talk to you a little bit about my passion for ministry? And I'm going to give them a sheet with my values. There are 12 things that, and remember when I said, why me? I have personally, prayerfully developed 12 things that Puck Fordham needs to minister. Gotcha. I don't know what Edsel Cadet needs, but you should know.
Right.
Is it Cadet or Cadet?
Cadet.
It's my fault.
Yeah,
Cadet.
it's good.
I know that for me to pastor a church, I need us to be a church that is seeking the outpouring of the Holy Spirit through prayer. I know that I need us to be a church that is Christocentric. I'll explain to them later what all this is. Right. I know I need us to be a church that sees worship as evangelistic. I know I need us to be a church where we are trying to engage every member in ministry according to their spiritual gifts, where we do outreach based upon the felt needs of the community, where evangelism is a process, not just an event. You follow me?
Right.
All of these different things that are important to me, where we organize according to mission. You follow me?
Right.
Where we define mission and vision. And I want to give them my values. I just listened to them for a whole hour. I want to give them my values and say, next month when we meet, I want to talk to you about my ministry thoughts. Right. And at that second meeting with the elder, I'm going to walk them through each of those values. Really what these are, Edsel, is these are the 12 things that I'm going to be strategically trying to implement for the first 12 months of this year. They are the building blocks that I need. These are my 12 apostles, Right. And if I can, by God's grace, get those in the DNA of the church, that starts to set the direction from a leadership point of view. But these are spiritual things. I mean, I got text beside these things. Okay. I'm going to take these elders through a Bible study on these things. And at the end of that meeting, I'm going to ask them, can we pray about these being our values? I want to know if you disagree with any of these values. I want to know if you see any values that are missing. Right. I would love to take your values and my values and come up with our values. And I'm very serious. I might take away 4 of my 12. Well, if it was me, I wouldn't take away 4 minus 12. That's not a good number. I wouldn't have 8. I'd probably have 7.
Okay.
And leave some room because I want to add some of them. Or in that second conversation, technically it would be the third board elders meeting. In that third conversation, I may suggest one of mine I didn't. My point is, I want to emerge with a document that's our values.
Wow.
I'll have us pray over that thing. I'm not going to rush them. And I'm very patient, but I'm strategic.
Right, and it's laying the groundwork.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's important, man. So that first meeting with them, I gave it to them. I want to emphasize, I listened to them. Man, James chapter 1, it's either 18 or 19, I never remember that verse. Be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to get angry, right? I want to be quick to hear them. You listen to them, they will then listen to you.
Right.
So I gave them the values, gave them a chance to think about it. Second meeting, I gave a Bible study over it. Asked them to pray. Third meeting, we're voting them things. You know?
So now it's solidified.
Yes.
It's in the
We're voting
minutes,
them.
right.
And I'm very serious about, I want their fingerprints in it. I'm not trying to force them, because when I go to first board meeting,
Right.
and I want you to notice the sequence. I want an elders meeting first. What I did at elders meeting, I want to do at board meeting first month. What I did at second elders meeting, I want to do at second board meeting. They're staggered. You follow me?
Right.
So that at the first board meeting, I'm asking the same questions to those board leaders. Second board meeting, I'm sharing. Actually, second board meeting, if I stagger it well, is after third elders meeting. So I can share our values.
Gotcha.
You follow me?
Right.
I want them to know, I've been meeting with your elders. We have come up with our values. I want them to pray about first business meeting, church in prayer meeting and preaching. We've just been praying. That's what we're doing.
Right.
When we get to first business meeting, probably month 3, 4, I'm going to do in business meeting what I've been doing individually
Gotcha.
and with elders
Gotcha.
and with I'm going to be asking the church in business meeting about the SWOT. What do you think our strengths are? What do you think? I know them. I've talked to everybody individually.
Gotcha.
I've talked to elders. I've talked to board members. I've been taking notes, so-and-so.
Meeting families.
Meeting families.
Yeah.
I'm going to be asking them as a church. I want to know, what do they say corporately? Does it gel with what they told me individually? Are there some things, did I get some themes individually, but people won't say? I'm going to learn a lot about all that kind of stuff, okay?
Right.
I'm still listening. First business meeting. Second business meeting, I should be able to share with them not just what are our values from elders, but they should be our values as a board now.
Right.
Let the board put their fingerprints on what the elders have come up with, and bring that to business meeting and buttress it with all the data that you've been. Come and say, look, I've been listening to you. We've been meeting. This is what the Lord is showing me. This is who we are. But we need some agreed upon values as we move forward. We haven't even talked about a mission. We haven't even talked about a vision. We're just talking about what are those core, consistent things that are trans-congregational. Every congregation needs to agree with evangelism.
Right.
And I actually think as a process. Every congregation needs to agree that we're going to be seeking the Holy Spirit. But every congregation doesn't know that needs to be a value.
Right.
If we can get those values voted, then I want to start leading us. I might even preach, once we vote them, I might take a series starting, I'm probably now at month 6. And at first, if you got a good stash, you probably have been able, and you've been meeting with people, you can now start preaching more specifically. But man, I can tell them our first series, I'm going to preach on these 12 values. Preach on it and teach on it. Find some resources. I'm trying to say too many things in one place now, but find some resources. Like, I came through seminary when Rick Warren's Purpose Driven Church was a major book. I loved it. So I'm going to take the board through that as we are dealing with the mission component of my value. Have people read it. But I want to make sure that first 6-month thing is clear.
So I want to ask you, surely there are seminarians, people who are just getting assignments now, who are watching this. But then surely there are pastors who have been in their district or in their church for a year, maybe even 2. Is it too late for them to start implementing some of what you're sharing now? Because you might be listening and wondering, man, I wish I had done that in the first 6 months. I wish I had done that in the first 3 months. I didn't do those things. I didn't know that I should do those things, or I didn't have the time. Something was going on in my life. is it ever too late to start implementing some of these tools and strategies?
Good question. I'm trying to take you a hint and look at our audience. No, I always think there is the opportunity to move forward appropriately now. You know, when you know better, do better. But I don't want to minimize the capital building that takes place when you do it when you first get there. You know, if I have been operating, if I have not been listening to people for the first 2 years of my ministry, and now I try to turn a new leaf, I'm going uphill. Let's go ahead and do it.
Right.
Apologize, you know. But I want to emphasize the golden opportunity to do it at the beginning.
Right.
But hey, no, if I've been at my church, I've been at my church 11 years now. Let me start now. Let me start over.
Right.
Not a problem, you know. But I do think you're a seminarian. Let's say we're at the season where, at least when I was there, you would graduate in December and be assigned in January. Man, if you are about to be assigned at your church in January, perfect opportunity to set. And whether you are going to a church of 3 members, like I went to, or 300 members, start with those 3.
Gotcha.
Tell me about yourself. So, and genuinely, I want to understand you. I want to get to know you. Tell me about our church from your perspective. Tell me about your passion for ministry. Can I tell you about what makes me tick, what I'm excited about? Can we pray about how does he want to bring us together to merge this? And then we're moving toward, you know, okay, what is our mission? What does God want us to do? What is our vision? What should things look like as we do that?
Okay.
You know, I think that, you know, month 6 or so, you know, you should know some people a little bit better. I think a good initiative to do is like a spiritual gifts assessment if they haven't done one recently. You start, let's say you're preaching, if that's one of your values, and I would sequence those values so that the things that you need early are up there early. If you're preaching on spiritual gifts, you do a spiritual gifts emphasis. Start noticing those people who have the gift of leadership. People who wouldn't mind being in strategic planning meetings.
Right.
Not necessarily the gift of administration. There's a difference. Leadership, interested in looking at the future and casting administration. You want them to implement that thing. I'm talking about the people that will dream and so and so. Get those people in a room. You may want to go to your board and tell them that you feel the need for a strategic planning pastoral team. I'm looking for somebody that's, I'm the strategic planner.
Gotcha.
But I'm looking for a team that will help me make recommendations to you. The reason I'm saying that is I don't want just anybody populating my team. But I also want, I am suggesting these 3 people. Can you give me some suggestions? Let's merge this thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm probably trying to say too many things at one time right now, but if I have some leaders that are the old guard, let me grab one of them and put them on this team.
Okay.
But let me also make sure I grab that 35-year-old that they wouldn't have put on the team that I've been having a conversation with that I know gets it.
Gotcha.
Let's put them both on there.
Right.
I would rather get the people that I believe are going to be a little anti. Let me get them on my small group. So that we can, give me an opportunity, like Jesus. Let me hang out and eat with them for a little while. Let me cast vision to them. Let me have them reading the books. And then I want to start having that strategic planning group to make recommendations to my elders. Then the elders make that recommendation to the board.
It's process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Use smaller groups to win larger groups. Never. I do not want to bypass the smaller group and my first elder stand up at business meeting talking about, I was never consulted, I don't agree with this. No. I want to get that out here. I want to, at business meeting, be able to say, well, do you remember when we talked about that on the strategic planning group that you're a part of, and we agreed, and we brought. You get the difference.
I get you.
I'm not going to shoot them in public, But I am going to make sure that individuals understand that this was a part of the process and I didn't just make this up, you know?
So then you're saying that there are levels or groups that we need to address that are not in the church manual. Church manual breaks it down and it says, you know, you go to your elders board, you go to your church board, you go to business meeting. But in between those stated levels within the church manual, there are subgroups that we need to address and that we need to kind of corral if we're going to implement change and if we're going to change values in the culture of the church.
Very much so.
Okay.
I'm going to say a word about the church manual. I'm just going to be honest and transparent. The church manual is not the Bible.
Mercy.
And I'm not suggesting that we should just be willy-nilly departing from the church manual. But I also am very convicted that our Adventist fathers didn't want organization or manual because they feared that it would become Babylon.
Exactly.
Okay? And our pendulum is heading in that direction. Those local administrators who may have a challenge with what I'm saying, they do not have a challenge with how the North American Division is trying to rebuff what the General Conference is doing relative to implementing policies for women's ordination.
Mercy.
So as a local church pastor, see that manual as a guide.
Right.
Now don't just, I'm not veering from the lanes but if there's a pothole, I'm going to move over out of my lane.
Makes sense.
So yes, I'm not putting every department. Man, one of my first churches I pastored in Coffeyville, I remember they are doing nominating committee. There's 4 ladies, 3 ladies. They're doing nominating committee, and they're trying to populate every office in the manual. There's no kids. We don't need a Pathfinder person. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? I think that we need to take the principles of the manual. The principles of the manual would be, you know, the pastor is not a dictator. I need to get buy-in and approval from the board. But I can develop some groups with board permission. You know what I mean?
Right.
I can, actually in the manual, the elders are called the assistants of the pastor. I can gather my assistants together and bring some other individuals.
Definitely.
So 100%, you know, and I believe it is so important that we are getting individuals that have gifts. You will pastor churches where there is a leadership core, elders, who may be holding the reins of that church and they refuse to allow a new day to emerge. If you can get bypassed, get some other people on some of these subcommittees, make some recommendations, you may have to get past, you know what I mean? So yes, man, we need groups that we can engage and make them a part of the process rather than feeling like we're just hamstrung and we can only use board members.
I hear you. I
very much
hear
so.
you. Definitely hear you. So you listed, I'm just taking you back a little bit.
Sure.
The 12 values. Now, I assume your first weeks and months out of seminary, you didn't know all 12 values.
True.
Okay, so how did you develop these values?
Yeah, man, over time and over years, you're praying. I think some of the things are, you're pastoring for a second and you're saying, man, I wish I had implemented that a long time ago. If we grow, you know. So I think it comes from your critical study at the seminary.
Gotcha.
You know, at the seminary, you're going to be taught that we need a process for equipping members for ministry. Okay, that's something that I need. Make it a value. You know, you're going to be taught that there's a difference between outreach and evangelism. Make it a value. But that is a growing, living document. So I think that as you are leaving one district, spend some time to review it as you're praying. Lord, is this, you know what I mean? Tighten it, strengthen it. You may change it based upon when you brought it to X church, the elders gave you feedback. They gave you one, you said, I like that. I'm going to take that one to the next one. So yes, it is a breathing document that should adjust, you know. And I don't think, you know, it's not necessary for me to read you my 12. It's not about my 12. It's about your 12.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What are the things, if you could close your eyes and dream of the principles by which your church would operate, which biblical principles would they be?
Gotcha.
Those are your values. It could be, we will operate according to love and respect. Great, you know. It could be that we will view everyone we encounter as a potential soul for the kingdom. Those are biblical things. And there are aspirational values, and then there are actual values.
Nice.
I'm not talking about the things that exist. No, I'm talking about the things that we aspire to exist.
Right.
And we're going to ask God to lead us to make those aspirational ones actual, want to actualize them.
Nice. And after you've gone through these steps, what's the reaction of the people who in the beginning were like, well, let's see what he's got, and then the people who are like, so what you got?
Man, good point.
Mm-hmm.
I think now, you're always going to have the people that fall by the wayside.
True.
You know, woe when all men speak well of you. Okay. But I think the people who are a little more reserved, they notice the process, because sometimes those are the late adopters, and I think they may respect the fact, okay, no, this person, I cannot say he or she came in and just brought a cookie cutter thing, told us what to do and tried to force. No, they didn't rush, you know. The other person can't say I didn't have a program. I had one. For the first 3 months, the assignment was to pray, and I was serious about it. We were praying. They can't say I didn't have a program, but if I came with a quick program, man, people are going to say, well, that's your program, do it. I'm never going to get these people. I think that it allows me to carry both of those people as well as you can carry both people.
Gotcha. So what happens after all of that has been done, rather as you're going through the process, but you see immediate issues that maybe you feel like need to be addressed? Can you start implementing change while going through this process, or should you lay back?
Man, I'm glad you mentioned that. I have I co-authored a book called Mission Driven Ministry with Eddie Polite. He's my mentor. He needs to be sitting here.
Gotcha.
And I have a little part in the appendix called Leading Change. If I was a gifted to be a writer, I would write a book called Leading Change. Cotter has a book, John Cotter, a business book called Leading Change. Phenomenal. And there are some principles for leading change that I think are important. So just like we've talked about these values and how to a process for communicating them, I think there's also a sequential strategic process for implementing changes based upon those values. Man, I think everything needs to be slow but steady.
Gotcha.
You know, don't rush, man.
Gotcha.
Especially with the older people. Let your young adults know we're going somewhere. Don't worry, I got you. Let them know that you feel them.
Right.
But also let them know I want to give people time to get on board. With leading change, I believe that first you need to see it. Benjamin Reeves used to say, if it is a mist in the pulpit, it's going to be a fog in the pew.
True.
Well, the same goes with casting vision and mission and implementing change. If you don't really see what you're trying to do, others won't see it.
Gotcha.
You need to be clear on that. You need to see it. Then the next thing is you need to sell it. Don't think that because I see it, I can just implement it.
Gotcha.
No, that was when my grandfather, W.W. Fordham, was pastoring, and his colleagues and E.C. Ward could just get up and tell people what they're doing. No, they were the most educated person in their congregation. We are generally not. We got to sell folk.
True.
Use the same principles, the smaller groups to sell the larger groups. Find out who those informal leaders are. You're in that family church, go to that matriarch. Call her grandmama. Tell her, help her see that her grandson needs her support. Tell her how much you like her macaroni and cheese and her greens, and then say, I need you at this meeting,
Right.
Also, talk to that elder who's giving you some challenges and tell him, we're not talking about, first of all, go biblical. Let him know that this can change. But let him know we're talking about changing this worship service, not for you. This is for your grandson who we're trying to win.
Mercy.
Talk to him about that.
Right.
Go biblical on them. You're trying to sell them. Go biblical and let them know that Paul said, I will become like one under the law to win those under law, like a Jew, like a Gentile. If I am in the country haven of Nashville, if I was trying to reach country western people, I'd have some banjos.
Right.
If I'm trying to reach the young adults that go to Meharry, I need a guitar. You know what I mean? An electric one. Let them know that the Bible has principle, but I'm doing that individually.
Gotcha.
Also, man, you're resourcing them. Get books for them to read, and do not apologize for giving them non-Adventist authors. Jethro was a non-Adventist consultant for Moses. Jethro was not a direct descendant of Jacob. Now he was out there with Abraham over there. You know what I mean? But so Christian, but not Adventist. You follow me? The wise men educated the nation of Israel that the Messiah had come. They were not Christians. Man, people have taught. The reason why people assert that Ellen White was a plagiarist is because she read widely from non-Adventist authors. So our Adventist theologians are blessed when it comes to us dealing with, exegeting Revelation and Daniel. We are not the greatest when it comes to practice and praxis. You follow me? Grab some of these other. We are not the great. We know we're not the greatest when it comes to social justice. Grab these other authors, have people read them, and let them see that they're biblical. And I'm talking to people about it individually. Have those individual conversations. Then the elders. Then the board. Then the church and business meeting. And use that slow process. So I'm seeing it. I'm selling it. Then we got to start it. I think one excellent way to sell something, the end of selling it is you want the vote. You want permission. Don't confuse the vote with buy-in. The vote is just permission. Now you got to start that thing in a way that it gets buy-in. Man, start it by communicating to everybody. Everybody knows when the change is happening. Make sure that rollout is tight. Man, you can't be late. I mean, stuff has to be. Debrief with those who were for it and those who were against it. Tell the people at the beginning, we're not changing just for change's sake. If this doesn't work, we will assess it for 6 months. We'll evaluate it. And we'll evaluate it based upon these indices. They're going, all right, I decided I didn't like it. Our evaluation was based upon some agreed upon. And honestly, if it's not working, revisit it. I mean, man, at my church at Riverside, we went through the process I'm talking about and started Sabbath school after the worship service. Which to me is like, that is not anything monumental. But to the traditional Adventist structured mind, it's like, wow, man, all we trying to do is get more members engaged in Bible study. Well, I'm going to make sure when we start talking about that change, that I'm telling my dyed-in-the-wool Sabbath school people, look, this is just Sabbath school. I know they may be reading some other books, but we're just trying to get them to do Bible study. I'm not taking away your lesson. You can still do your lesson, but I got to engage them. Remember, your lesson is a tool to do Bible study. I want them to use some tools to do Bible study. My point is, let them know it's okay for us to read other things, just like other parts of the church have different. But for my millennials or others, I ain't telling them this is Sabbath school. Man, we got to get in the Word. Man, we need fellowship. We got to, it's one thing for us to talk in general. Man, we need to get down and apply this thing. And I want to do it at a time that's convenient for you. Can we do this in the afternoon? Will you come? So and so. At the end of the day, I want to make sure that I have a reason, a goal, measurable while we're doing that. Our assessment, we noticed, we had about 500 and something people at worship, but only 120 people coming to Sabbath school, including children. Well, that was even when we were doing our attendance check at about 10:30, so you didn't know if the majority of them were coming because of the worship service about to start at 11. So we said, man, we got to change this thing. When we started having classes after the worship service, the thing swelled to like 350.
Wow.
Now, we carried that for a good year and a half. We went down to 250. Now, 5-6 years later, it's back down to 120. Okay, let's change again. My point is, the goal is not just to change. The goal is to change some behavior. If the method is no longer creating the behavior, let's change the method again. So I think a good thing when you start it, or sell it and start it, is to tell them, we'll assess it again, and be true to that. After you see it, you sell it, you start it, then you need to seal it. You need that thing to become a part of the culture. I feel affirmed when there is something that God has given me to contribute to that congregation, and when God moves me, and the next pastor comes in, if that pastor sees light in what has been provided, and I think we as colleagues should not be just trying to come and unearth what people have done. If they see light in it, I consider it affirmation when that new pastor can build upon whatever was there and it's still solid. They don't have to knock the whole house down. The foundation is still there. They can paint some different colors. You know, they can adjust some furniture, might even add on a room. But the foundation is there. When you seal that thing, it's in the DNA of the people. You no longer have to be pushing it. They will push it. You know that it's sealed when you come to business meeting, and when the old diehard says something and shoots it, and other members start shooting back at them, that thing is sealed.
Mercy.
You want to change it that slowly and thoroughly so that that thing becomes concretized. But not so concretized that you aren't willing to go all the way back and assess it again.
Gotcha. That's solid. So, you know, I think it's easy when you're starting out in pastoral ministry or just being a pastor to allow your ministry to be personality driven based on your charisma, to allow it to be event driven based on the calendar. But you're sharing this perspective where it needs to be process driven, mission driven. There has to be a place where God is leading you with the people, that you're not relying only on your gifts or only on the event expectations of the people in order to get there. And I think that that's so powerful. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing with the vlog.
You have summarized that so well. We could have saved an hour.
Oh, no.
But you have it.
You
got it.
You've shared it, so I received it. You know, and it's been sealed. So I really appreciate the time. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to the vlog. Make sure you tune into the next episode coming out next month. Subscribe to the newsletter. Subscribe to the YouTube page, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.